Hey, Smarts watching MTC Media. So George Mason has released their non-conference schedule, and boy, they couldn't wait to release this one. Their trips to Marquette and Duke, those are going to be the highlights of the non-conference schedule. The trip to Marquette is part of some sort of one of those little classics, one of those little tournaments, and the trip to Duke was something that was scheduled. So those are the two highlights of George Mason's schedule. Obviously, with Marquette, Duke is the bigger name because obviously it's Cooper Flag, it's Duke, it's everything that people. So that's going to get a lot of attention for me. The Marquette one is a little bit more intriguing because it's Shaka Smart, VCU, and there's also some other ties to the CAA days as George Mason also goes to East Carolina, and they also go to James Madison in state. I hesitate to use the word rival. I guess when it was in the same conference, it was more of a rivalry. But those three games, those four games, certainly jump out at you when you first look at the non-conference schedule. Also, George Mason will have 9 home games, which is the most non-conference home games since 1983-84. So you sort of see what Tony Skinn is doing. They're putting these big signature, get our name out there games, along with a couple of rivalry games, games that have kind of like a storyline to it. Like I said, with James Madison and East Carolina, CAA brethren back in the day, and then you fill them in outside of that, which means UNC Central, who is usually one of the competitors for the MEAC championship every year. They will be making a trip here to Patriots Center. Stony Brook will be coming here. Central Michigan is also part of the thing going on at Marquette, Coppin State, Ferrum, UNC Asheville, Penn, and Mount St. Mary. So there are other games in there that Coach Skinn has filled in the schedule with, but this is what a schedule for an Atlantic 10 team should look like. It has some signature opponents from power conferences, along with some storyline opponents. Especially with James Madison, who is in state, along with your usuals. You want to play a Penn when you're George Mason. A Mount St. Mary's. Tulane makes the trip to George Mason to Fairfax this year. So Coach Skinn did a great job filling the schedule, the non-conference schedule out for George Mason, and they'll prepare them from the Atlantic 10, which is always obviously one of the best mid-major conferences in the country. If you like the term mid-major, I don't. I'm using it for the sake of this. I think the whole mid-major, low major, high major. Anyway, Tony Skinn did a perfect job, and for those who follow me, you also know that I had said that Ed Cooley from Georgetown did a great job on their schedule too, even though you can argue that George Mason's schedule is harder or has more signature opponents. But I think it's reflective of where those two programs are. Skinn building George Mason in his way, where Ed is having to build Georgetown with some circumstances that Tony doesn't have to deal with. But great job for George Mason. I think this will get people excited about the program, and hopefully it will get more people in the seats over at EBA. Smarks Washington with MTC Media.